on Positive Profiles, we look at education. And here to focus on education, we are chatting with Gabrielle Gay, founder of the Erlene Bradshaw Foundation. Gabrielle, welcome to Positive Profiles.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here. This is an honor. Thank you for having me.
Now, I understand that your foundation is rooted in education. Tell me about the Erlene Bradshaw Foundation. How did it get its name?
Okay, wow. So thank you so much for that. I love telling this story. So the Erlene Bradshaw Foundation is actually named after my grandmother, Erlene, who was such a catalyst for education. You know, particularly in the post-colonial era in Barbados, many women especially weren't necessarily going past, and you know, more vintage Barbadians will know this term, seventh standard.
Yes.
Right? Which is where you essentially finished primary school and that was it for you. And you were going back to the fields. And my grandmother, which was very revolutionary for her time, she was always such a heavy proponent of education, and this was very revolutionary, especially in the post-colonial era in Barbados. You know, many of the more vintage Barbadians would remember that most persons, especially women, only attended school up to seventh standard, right? So essentially, they only finished primary school. So my grandmother, she said, nope. I don't believe in that. I think that women and everyone in general should, go the distance, academically. So then her children, as well as she also would hold meetings actually at her home and whatnot with parents in the community and say, this is why I believe education is key for our children for social and upward social mobility. So she quite literally became a force and the catalyst for multiple hundreds and generations of individuals across Barbados becoming educated. So, for me, naming my foundation, I said, no, I'm not naming it after myself. I asked my mom, and then she said no, she didn't want it. She said, let's do grandmom, because that's where it all, really truly began and where our impacts began, way back then.
So 2 generations later,
Yeah.
you decided to foster an educational foundation.
Yeah.
Now, we've since gone way past 7th standard.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many things that women have achieved, but you saw the need. What are the gaps that you felt passionate enough to fill in?
Okay, so my journey actually began at 10 years old, right? So for many Barbadians, we know of a show called Thomas on Thursdays. So this was before Brass Tacks.
Yes, it was.
Before Brass Tacks, super popular show. It was called Thomas on Thursdays. So at, just 10 years old, my parents, my mom have always fostered this culture of speaking out positively and respectfully and just learning more about life and sharing that knowledge with others. So at 10 years old, I would call in on Thomas on Thursdays programs, and I became known as Tom's Gabby. So literally, I would call in and give facts on fun facts, because I would read Guinness World Records, encyclopedias at that age. That was my favorite thing to do. So I would call in, give fun facts, and also give solutions that I believe, could work for children and whatnot in education. So from that springboard, I became known as Tom's Gabby. Hi, Tom, if you're watching, and became VOB Child of the Year. And that just started a trajectory that was based on socialization at home to then look around and recognize that I could innovate the world and really change the world positively through education. So about 2.5 years later, 12.5/13, I started the Gabrielle Gay Award for Excellence in Reading and Literacy Mentorship Program. And I was sitting on my bed, literally, talking to my mom. She's a co-founder of the Erlene Bradshaw Foundation, Mrs. Margaret Gay. And I said, Mom, we're telling children that they need to read more. And we're proverbially, beating them over the head with the books, just read this, read that. But then I recognized that my contemporaries were not intrinsically motivated to read like I was. So I'm thinking there, and I said, how about we reward them for reading? How about we have interactive story times where we make these books come alive? Because what I recognize is that everyone doesn't learn the same way.
True.
And our education system is designed for individuals who learn in one fashion. So we started then with my allowance, literally. With my allowance, bought the first 5 awards, because the award is given at graduation time. And I started in 5 schools. And literally, Kimberly, it exploded across the intellectual landscape of Barbados because every time I would go to school and do the story times and give the award, somebody else would be in the audience from another school. And they're like, why don't we have that? We want that at our school
So
too.
you got that interest now.
Interest.
That burning
Yes.
desire to
Yes.
read, and
Yes.
reading, of course, extends to learning and
Correct.
development.
Correct.
So how have you taken that into, let's say, tangibly seeing children grow and develop, especially those who might have certain learning or literacy challenges?
Yeah, so at our program, what we do as well is that we actually work with learning psychologists as well. So we have like a directory. So parents who may be wondering, is it that they're not interested, or is it a genuine case of some type of cognitive challenge and whatnot? So we work along with these specialists as well, and we work with the teachers. So teachers and principals and educators are heavily involved, not only in the selection of the students for the awards, but also in the story time and the sessions as well. So the program, as I said, it exploded across the intellectual landscape, and now we are in over 115 participating schools. We're also at the Barbados Community College working to award and foster the interest in literature at the associate degree level. And we're also the only and highest award for literature in the entire country, because we also give the award at the University of the West Indies, honoring the highest performing student in the Bachelor's of Literature as well.
So this goes beyond Tiny Tots. This is from
Yes.
Tiny Tots.
Primary,
Right
all
up to
the way up. We're
tertiary.
innovating, yes.
Tell me a little bit about you, Gabrielle, because you went from toting what was a small awardee system
Yeah.
that you came up with using your allowance,
Yeah.
to being part of NGOs and other illustrious alumni. But rather than just toting that title, you've used the knowledge
Yes.
to continue to spread the literacy program. What else have you been doing?
Okay, so after the literacy program, then of course the pandemic came. And I feel like the pandemic was such a pivotal time for many of us.
We had to pivot.
We had to
We had no
pivot
choice.
in the pandemic. So for some of us, I always feel I'm so busy, and the pandemic forced me to slow down. But the beautiful thing about rest is that you can also innovate. Right? So I'm in a pandemic because I'm a law student, and I'm thinking, what else can I do? So we have the literacy program. It's been honored by the Queen across the Commonwealth. We're doing amazing globally and whatnot. How else can we innovate? So the legal sector came to mind, and I said, we have to do something here. So what I recognized then, I said in the pandemic, I started to look at the legal education system, and we have come great strides. We have a fantastic, one of the best education systems compared to many developing countries in the world. But what I recognize is that we're missing technology. So legal technology was missing from the syllabi. So we developed at the Early and Bradshaw Foundation, I designed a program called the FemLex cohort. So Fem, French for woman, Lex, Latin for law, and cohort, and esteemed gathering. So essentially, we're the largest, highest rated, legal and only of its kind, legal mentorship program in the entire world. So we focus on what I coined eco-technology justice. So this is where we teach our lawyers, climate professionals, and tech professionals as well the importance of climate technology, financial technology, legal technology all over, and also technology justice in that we deal with technology crime as well. Yes. So for example, there are a lot of technology crimes, not just like data privacy, but also crimes like AI. Artificial intelligence generated deep fakes that individuals use for very nefarious purposes. We educate our legal sector, not just in Barbados, but also around the Caribbean and also across the world. So we've partnered with CARICOM, United Nations, Humane Intelligence, some of the biggest and most influential tech giants across the entire world to complete this program. So we've been doing that as well since 2020, and just really innovating, because that's what it's about. I understand that there is a place for diagnosing the challenges, but you can only complain for so much. That's my perspective. Now it's about using your talent and your innovative mindset to create solutions. And that's what we do at the Early Bradshaw Foundation.
how has the science, rather the technology
Yeah.
aspect of it, impacted the development of the legal sector from your standpoint?
Okay, so that's a great question. So, for example, we have a system, this has been publicly spoken about, where we have the remand, a very slow system, process of justice. So, technology is key and pivotal, as many of these systems and processes can actually be placed online. The filing, court has happened. You see, let's go back to the pandemic, right? We had to have a lot of the hearings and whatnot on Zoom. I believe we should go back to that. We should have a hybrid legal system to speed things up. And when it comes to filing and processes, many individuals can tell you the horrors of having to, find a file. Where did it go? Let's implement more technology solutions as well. And then ultimately, in terms of educating our lawyers and our policymakers, because the lawyer to politician pipeline is very real, right? There's a large chance, especially in the Caribbean as well, that an individual who is in law, 9 years out of 10 is either going to end up in politics, or they're going to be extremely pivotal and key in policy making and legislation. So our thing is, if we have lawyers who are not educated in technology crimes, they're not aware of what's happening in cybersecurity, then how are we actually creating policies that are going to work in the future? So that's what it's about. It's about educating and ensuring that we streamline and develop the legal profession.
Wow, I don't even have to ask you about, where the passion comes from. We can feel it, we can feel it. But what I want to say is that you have started a journey that has grown tentacles that are
Yes.
far reaching. And we
Yes.
want to encourage you to keep that foundation
Thank you.
going. Keep the
Thank
Erlin Bradshaw Foundation flag
Thank you
flying
so
high.
much.
Gabrielle Gay, it was a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you so much.
Well said. You've been watching Positive Profiles. I'm Kimberly Skeet.